How do we know that Judaism is real? So I'm going to give you a 3-minute crash course on how I know that the Torah is 100% authentic. First of all, there are the Bible codes. What are you talking about, Avi? Well, there are codes that were put out by Esha Torah. My great uncle was one of the scientists who came up with it. This idea that if you count the letters in the Torah and you see certain parshias, you will see certain connections of words that don't make any sense. Like in the parsha, when they talk about the destruction in the world, then you would look in the codes and it would say Treblinka, Zyklon B. I saw all these things. The probability of it is very rare. That's not why I know that the Torah is true. That's but one of the beginnings of my saying, well, that's weird. Well, how about this? All religions, Christianity, the Muslims, who far outnumber us, of course they came after us, they don't have the concept of mass revelation. Does anyone know what that is? That God came down and spoke to the people, all in public. No other religion can say that. Jesus, they had a vision. Muhammad had a vision. Everyone had visions. No, this is a completely different situation. And that's why the Christians and Muslims accept the Torah. They just made an addendum to the Torah. Number two, why would the Jews? We're very stubborn, very difficult people. Why would they want to agree to put on tzitzis, yarmulke, keep nida, give 10% of everything that you have to charity? Why would we do that? The Shemitah that I spoke about before, how about the sota waters, that if the woman is bad, you put God's name in the water and it will kill the woman? How could anyone put that in a book? It could be disproved, but it never was disproved. How could anyone do that? And no one did it. God did it, but we got more for you. Let's talk about 4 animals that are written about in the Torah. You know, we say animal has to chew its cud and it has to have split hooves. But there are 4 animals that do have split hooves, but they don't chew its cud. Those 4 animals are the rabbit, the hare, the pig, and the camel. Problem is, most of the world was not discovered 3,500 years ago, thousands of years ago. So whoever authored this would have to know that those 4 animals, so scientifically it's proven. But we'll go further, because there's always going to be an argument. Why would anyone write a story about their family laced with negative things? The holiest man, Abraham. Well, that's his son Esau. We don't talk about him. He's very hairy. Whoa, that's weird. Oh, yeah, no. And then Isaac, he's got a kid named Ishmael. I'm sorry. Abraham had Ishmael. I apologize. And Yitzchak had Esau. The point is that why would anyone talk about it? Just brush it under the rug. No, they don't talk about that. Yehuda and Tamar. That was a very weird liaison, but it had to happen. And the Davidic dynasty comes from that. Why would anyone put that in there? It doesn't make any sense. Yaakov trips his brother. We have to make it that he steals the bracha, that people could say, oh, they steal. What do you mean? It was his bracha. No. How about Lot's daughters, that they had to get their father drunk with? This is craziness. No, it's not craziness. This proves to you that God wrote the Torah, but there's even another one. The predictions in the Torah. Read the Torah. Take the time and read what I'm about to tell you. It states in the Torah on numerous occasions, you will be a light unto the nations. Listen carefully. You will be exiled unto the people. You will be hated by the people. You will be few in number. What's going on here? What's going on? First of all, think about it. You'll be hated by the people. You'll be anti-Semitism. You'll be exiled. We're weak when we're exiled. And we'll be a light unto the nations. That's a contradiction in terms. If you hate me, why are you going to admire me? But look at the world. Isn't it the same way now? Of course it is. So now we have all these proofs that Hashem wrote the Torah, but let's go further. Fine, I believe it, but I'm a deist. I don't believe he's here now. I believe he did create the world. I'm not stupid. They have hieroglyphics that prove that the Egyptians had to deal with the split sea. Forget all that. He's not here now. Well, let's talk about that very quickly. God says to Moses something very interesting in the Torah. It is the most poignant event in the Torah, and I strongly recommend that when we leave here tonight, read it. Moses says to God, show me your face. Reveal me your glory. And God says, no man can see my face and live, but I'll pass my glory before you while you hide behind the rock, and then as I pass by you, you'll see the back of my head. And with that, he's satisfied. Of course, Rashi, Rav Soloveitchik, they talk about, what does that mean, show me your face? Give me a break. You think that the most poignant event in the Torah is talking about physical terms? Of course not. The answer is when he says, show me your face, he goes, why do bad things happen to good people? Why is the world set up the way it does? Why do things happen this way? And Hashem says, you can't see my face and live. You can't see me in the present and live. But after the fact, you can see the back of my head in hindsight. So now I'm going to show you. And we know this, by the way, with the counterfactual hypothesis. What's that? That simply states that if you want to have choice exist, then evil has to exist. If you have Darth Vader, you cannot have Luke Skywalker without Darth Vader. Therefore, God hides. Well, let's say there was a way that God could exist without you seeing him. Therefore, I can live because you're not seeing my face, God is telling us. Well, then how could God do that? And God could do that by remaining hidden. God remains hidden in the world. We know that in the story of Purim. Look what happened at the story of Purim. Hashem, he's not mentioned once in the Megillah. Of course not. And everything looked like it was natural, and Achashverosh and Haman, and just the time that he told her, and then the fast. Whatever you want to say. This was all the hand of God through man. But I got more for you. Look at the history of our people. We're still around. Did you know that Albert Einstein was asked, who would you meet in the world that was famous, and what would you say to them? And you know what he said? I would meet Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses. And I would say to him, did you know that your people were still here? We have been through a Holocaust. 6 million Jews. We've been through the 48 War. We've been to the Cossack rebellions. We've been through the Spanish Inquisition. We've been through the 67, the 73, the Yom Kippur War, the Beirut War. It's never ending, and we're still here. Saddam dropped all these scuds all over Israel. They just happen to always miss everyone. Why? Because God's running the world. As long as we do our part, he'll do his. Let's talk about history for a minute. Did you know that did anyone see the film called Saving Private Ryan? Yeah. Great film. When they went in there, Hitler was ready for them. The question remains, why didn't Hitler finish everyone off? Where were all of the planes to blow up all the people that were coming in on the boats? And the answer is that Hitler overslept that day. That is true. Look it up in history. And another thing that happened is Hitler's general his wife had his birthday. So they left the front because the weather report came in that it was going to be very bad. In fact, the British, the soldiers, the Allies, we were not going to go in that day. And at the last second, an opening came in on the weather, and they went in. It was a miracle. And Churchill and all of them said, this is nothing but the hand of God. But you have to see it and learn history to know that. Look at the DNA. Does anyone here watch Forensic Files? Great show. They find people that, there's an old Jewish man living in Boca Raton. 50 years ago, he unfortunately had an affair, and he didn't know what to do about it, so he stuffed the lady in a little box, left her under his house, and 50 years later, they found a box. They couldn't tell what it was, but they had a little DNA. They went over to his house in Boca, he pulled out a gun and killed himself. He had no idea that God was still running the show. He thought he pulled it off. Even if he lived and died, he still would have been punished because God would go up there. That's one of the reasons that suicide is never an option. Of course we get depressed. Of course we have stress. Of course we have problems that people can't possibly understand. A difficult parent, a stupid teacher, an idiotic friend, maybe we're chemically imbalanced. Who cares? But suicide is not an option. Cursing out someone might work. A baseball bat, you can talk. But you're not to place anything in your own self in harm. Why? Because it's not yours. And the very problems you're running from are going to be waiting for you. Now folks, I don't know if we're tight on time. Rabbi?
10 minutes.
Okay, good. Then we're going to go into even another dynamic, which is nature. I'm not really into spiders, in fact. I know for a fact that my son suffers from some form of agoraphobia. This is how he goes to shul every week. Hey, what's up, Dad? No, we're good. We're good. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Not making fun. I can't do snakes or scorpions, so I have my hang-ups. And tigers, but we'll talk about that later. The point is, what spiders do every day is spin webs. Did anyone ever wonder how they get across the web? Catches everything else. You know how we act when we walk through a spider web. Yeah, no, John, I'm going to the mall. Gee, what the heck? You go absolutely bonkers. And it's great because it could be like a 300-pound killer for the mafia. Yeah, no. I want his family dead. I want her dead. Oh my God, what's going on? You cannot deal with a spider web. And yet the spider goes across. How? Because the spider, Hashem made the legs of the spider secrete an oil that allows it to go out of its appendages to go across the thing. That's insane. We don't think about it. You know how alligators eat? Their mouths go up and down. They don't go like that, like the way we chew. So guess what happens? Late at night, when everyone's sleeping, after they drown all their innocent victims, the victims come up to the top of the water, they get in a row, and they start spinning. And they cut up whatever it is that they've caught into little pieces and eat it. That's how they do it. How do they do that? God. Let's talk about when we get sick. Let's talk about the liquids in our body. How many liquids do we have? Reductive, waste, different types of waste, mucus. Oh my God, I'm crying, my eyes. Ooh, I'm getting angry, blood to my face. How does that happen? Who created that? God, but we don't think about it. How about when you were born? You won't realize it until God's willing people have children. A human being created within liquid, where the lungs are submerged in liquid, only to come out, expunge the liquid, and then become a completely metamorphosized into a completely different Bria? Who could do that but God? The mere fact that you have people like Harry Potter, what's his name, Daniel Radcliffe, or Mick Jagger, or Steve Wozniak, or Steve Jobs, or Bill Gates, or all these wonderful celebrities that don't understand that God created the world. Did they think that their looks came from themselves? And quite frankly, did they think that they're talented either? Hashem is the one that did it for them. But they chose not to acknowledge Him. And like we spoke about at the beginning of this little speech, it's choice. It's what choice you're willing to make, because when we're done with this little party, it could be done in a week, it could be done in a year, it could be done when we're 80, or God willing at 120, well, not 120. But the point is that when we go back to God, He says, how'd you weather the storm? Did you give charity? Did you pay attention? Were you disrespectful and not treating your prayers correctly and making fun of rabbis? Or were you saying, listen, I had my challenges, but now I want to find out for myself what's really going on here? That's what I did. Very quickly, because I know we're very much running late. And that is, I'm going to end this. Well, I really wanted to tell you that. On 9/11, there was a man. We talked about incidents, how we see God. We talk about where is God. We can see God through history. Of course, you know that O.J. Simpson was accused of killing his wife, girlfriend, many years ago. Everyone knows the verdict. It's not even anything to talk about. But the point is that everyone knew he was guilty, but there was just nothing that anybody could do because they didn't have 2 witnesses, It didn't work. So they didn't have 1 witness. They had nothing. The witnesses were killed. So at the end of the story, this man got off. Yet 10 years later, to the day that he was acquitted, do you know what happened to him? He was sent to prison. I think he's still there. He is. No, he got out, right? He just got out. Why? He went for reclaiming and stealing his very own memorabilia that was taken from him. So he went to jail 10 years later on the day that he got out. Why? Because he originally was guilty in the first place. So Hashem had to figure out a way to make it appear naturally, because the people obviously let him off to put him in jail. This happens every day. A man was flying on 9/11. This is a true story. I read in a book. They have his name, everything. He left his tefillin in the lounge. He says to the stewardess, listen, I have to get my thing. Well, sir, we've already left the gate. You can't. He said, no. If you get up one more time, we're throwing you off. They threw him off the plane. That plane went into, so now you're going to tell me? No, I'm not saying that everyone that David didn't get killed. No, I'm not saying that. But there is another classic case of God revealing Himself in a hidden way and saving this person's life. How many stories have we heard about people in the Holocaust that did live? Of course we know about the 6 million that didn't. But what about the ones that did? There's so many people that did. How many people left the country, like my grandmother? I wouldn't be here today if it were not for the fact that the Chasdei Hashem. She came here in 1927 in Ellis Island. The miracles are here for you. We're ending with a 90-second story for you, and then you can ask questions if we have more time. Why is texting on Shabbos so bad? What's the big deal about texting on Shabbos? Very quickly, when I was a kid, everyone smoked cigarettes, and it was no big deal. You were cool, everything was great, no problem. When you were in the 1930s, if you bought shoes, they would have an X-ray machine and you could actually see your feet. Here's the problem. All the people in the towns that had those, their feet fell off and they died of cancer. No one knew. No one had any idea. The smoking people, they all died. Everyone died. No one knew. But why? There was nothing wrong. Nothing happened. It's the same thing with texting. Nothing's happening. I'm not getting in trouble. No problem. Once you start texting, you just moved over a little bit. You gave yourself a little wiggling room. Well, maybe I'll hit on a light. Maybe I'll just kind of grab a sandwich. It wasn't 3 hours. What are you doing, man? Well, because it all started from a text. Not going to work. Got another thing for you. It blurs the lines. Arafat, total scumbag, went to the UN in 1974 and said, I will not rest until every Jew is in the sea. Like Abe Lincoln said. He compared himself to Abe Lincoln. He was a baby killer. He got a Nobel Peace Prize. That's completely insane. John Gotti, he was a very, very dangerous Godfather-type killer. Everybody loved him when he would walk out of jail and get off every time. He'd be like, hey, how you doing? All right, hey, how you doing? Hey, Johnny. And it was, and honestly, I loved it. I loved watching the news and seeing him just like waving. I'm like, how did he get off? Because he killed everyone on the jury. I mean, it was a wonderful system. It was a great way to. You don't need law school, let me tell you, folks. But in the end, he died in jail because, again, Hashem let him go to the end, and then Hashem's like, bam, you're out. We have to remember that the story that the Dubno Magi tells, and I'll end with that, and that is that he says there was a thief in Europe many years ago. They didn't have good lighting. He went inside the shul, and he does these sparkling crowns and beautiful chandeliers and gold. He's like, if I steal anything here just to get a bite to eat, they're going to know that I took it, so I'm going to go where nobody sees it. It'll be a small thing. So he goes up in the attic, and he starts reaching. He feels a screw. Ooh, I could sell this for like 10 rubles. I'll get myself a wonderful pickle sandwich. That's what they used to eat back then. Well, anyway, he does so. He goes upstairs and he starts unscrewing it, and suddenly he hears a loud thud and a crash. Oh my God, he runs downstairs and he realizes, oh my God, the small screw, that was attached to the large chandelier. I didn't realize that. That is exactly what happens when you text. That is what happens every time you move further away. My advice to you, as I leave you, you can ask me whatever questions you have. If you have an opportunity to go to Israel, take it. I became a completely different person. All my friends that went to the BU and all that, they slept around and they became losers. They have completely no nachas from their family. They're very nice people, they're very successful. There are a few select that did do well, but I would strongly suggest that you go to Israel for the year. It's so much fun, and it's really great to get away from your parents. Sorry guys. Anyway, is there any questions? Are we good? Questions, anyone? Anything, any questions at all? Why is SNIA so important? Okay. Guys, you're going to hate me for this. Here we go. Why is it so important to be, girls, please get that. It's not nice. I know, I had it all the time when I was a kid. So here's how it works. Here's how, I'm going to explain to you very quickly. I got a friend named Jose. You know Jose. He's my friend that works, he works at a restaurant that I'm established with. And every day, he goes out for his cigarette break, and I go downstairs and we schmooze. And I made a joke to him, because all that Goyim really talk about like that, you know, dishwasher type workers, waiters, is girls and drinking. That's what they do. That is their business. So, no, it's really true. So as a joke, I saw these frummies, you know, hanis, and I said, hey, Jose, maybe you could take out one of them. And this look on his face, he said, no, bro, I would never. You know how they are. I would never do that. I said, it works. Judaism works. He knew just by looking at a Jewish girl, they're different. Jewish women are different. Now, I know it's hard for you to appreciate that. In the society we live in, you want to show more so that the people will look at you, but it's like wrapping a present, and then the guy's in love with the wrapper, and she's like, hey, I'm over here. It's like, yeah, I'm with the wrapper right now. I like the wrapper. Okay, the wrapper's not the present! And by the way, the wrapper, when it's 90, you ain't going to want to be looking at it too much, so you better get to know the soul, or you're going to be sorry. So here's the thing. It gets a little more. I'm going to end it with this thought. I know you never thought of this. When you polish gold and you put rhodium on it to make the diamond sparkle, it's a plating solution. I used to do that. You polish the gold really shiny. If it's any dirt on it, it's not going to stick. It will not adhere to it. Why? Because for greatness to stick, it has to be clean. Humility. Think of Moshe Rabbeinu. He was our leader. They don't say he was strong. They don't say he was mighty warrior. They only say he was humble. He was willing to take himself out of the book for the people. He could have whipped anyone. He could have done anything. Okay, Pharaoh, whatever you want. Yeah. He was just being humble. That's why God chose him. By being humble, what is sneas? Sneas is modest. What is modest? Modest is unassuming. What is unassuming? It's humble. It's the same thing. And lastly, think about it. Before the sin of eating from the tree, before the sin, they were just having a good time. They were all naked together. They eat from the thing, and suddenly they're naked! They're covering up. What happened? Suddenly, humanity became different. No longer was the body and the soul equal. Now the body's saying, hey man, I want in. I'm in charge now. By covering up, we're putting the soul back in charge. Covering up will be the best thing that you do. It'll find you a great husband. Thank you.